Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. This is Mujeeb Kazi and you're watching Washington Roundtable on VOK TV. August 5th, 2019 changed the dynamics of Kashmir. We have seen over the years that Kashmir have gone through so many highs and lows, but this was one of those moments when Kashmiris around the globe realized and understood that we have been hiding behind somebody who has not been a true friend to us when it comes down to pleading the case and the plight of people of Kashmir and the independence of Kashmir. So when it comes down to Kashmir, talking about August 5th, Article 370, abrogation of 35A, and the dynamics that have changed the course of Kashmir from 2019 until today. So we have no other uh, credible source to talk about this important issue than Farooq Siddiqi Saab, who is the president of KGC, who can shed the light on what is the condition of Kashmir from 2019 until today, and then we can proceed with our program further. First of all, Siddiqui Saab, thank you very much on the show, and give us a short rundown where we were before 2019 and where we are today.
Thank you very much, Mujib Saab, and Assalamu alaikum to everybody and to the audience. Yes, it has been it's a very historical event that took place in August 5th in 2018, and
19.
basically, in order to give a vivid and clear understanding of Article 370, its origin, and its importance, and psychologically for the people of Kashmir as well as India and people of India. Before I go into that, I would like to explain little bit of historical background that obviously at some stage in the history of Kashmir has been obscure and very voluntarily been not brought to the fore. And the reason being because we are, as your screen shows, surrounded by countries that have very important and very stringent nationalistic aspirations, be it India, Pakistan, China, Iran. So all of these countries, they think that they have an existential threat between themselves. And in between is a place called Kashmir, which has more history than all of these countries that are around it. Let me go back again to the true history is in Independence Act of 1947, and the act was 1935 in the British Parliament. Right? This was passed, I think, somewhere in the May of 1947, 30th May or 31st May, something like that. And Independence Act stated, it was after the discourses that took place within the British politicians after the World War, that stated that we must give independence to the then British India, which British India was something, it was a joining of different states, and the British colonialism was imposed, and British authority was imposed on South Asia and Far East countries. And that was British India. It included part of what you see today, the map of India. It included part of what you see, Pakistan and Afghanistan. But there were pockets within that South Asian regions which were not part of British India. There was no colonization of those parts, and many of them parts were there, which had their own independence. The only link to the British colonial powers of these states or these parts and territories were through a very nominal string with the Crown of England and not with the British Parliament, right? The British only ruled South Asia through its Governor General. And last of that Governor General was Lord Mountbatten. He was the main administrator and representative of British colonial power who administered the British India. Why I am saying British India is because it was not the same as the India that today is seen or proclaimed or is governed by the Parliament of India or Pakistan. About rest, let us not talk about rest of the state. Let us come back to this focal point that I am saying, that regarding Kashmir. Kashmir was under, which was called suzerainty. It had its links with the crown, not the British India, not Lord Mountbatten, not Delhi, not Lahore, not Kabul. It had a direct contact with the crown, and every year the then Maharaja, who was the head of the state of this Jammu and Kashmir, would have an annual meeting with the crown and seek their protection. So it was a protection sort of a thing, that nobody is going to invade. Your colonial powers or army is not going to invade us. So it was protected by the crown, but was not part of British India. Now, the Act of 1947, British India Independence Act, was passed, and wherein it was said that we are going to create two dominions. Why I am saying dominions is because they were not created as countries, but dominions. That meant that these dominions will still have association with the British Crown. So that's why, if you see that Independence Act, the wording was, we create two dominions, so that they still are part of Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is something in which the highest authority virtually is the Crown of England. Today you will see Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and many of the African countries, and even India and Pakistan for some time, were part of the Commonwealth. In Canada, we have the highest over the Parliament. The highest authority is the Governor General, which is directly controlled by by British Crown, right? So it may be nominal, but still Canada is under British suzerainty, right? So that is what Kashmir was
So
at that
to
time.
understand, Farooq Sahib, to understand, so you're drawing a comparison. Whatever the condition of the Canada is at this time in terms of sovereignty, in terms of
Yeah,
autonomy, it was similar state of affairs in Kashmir at the time when it was ruled by the British India. Correct?
exactly. Not yeah, it was not ruled by British India.
Hmm.
It was not ruled by British India. Their Governor General of Lord Mountbatten or anybody did not have any powers to change laws or do anything in Kashmir. All that they could do, come to Kashmir, have some vacations. That's
I
it.
see.
So it was not British Parliament. It was not British administration. That needs to be clear.
Okay.
It was not a British administered part. Like Canada, Australia is not British administered part. In the similar manner, Kashmir was not British administered part, but it had its suzerainty with the crown of England. At that time, it was the king, and later on it became the queen, irrespective of whether it is male or female. We call it the crown of England. So that is the history of basic that has been distorted. The politicians of India and Pakistan have distorted this history and given uh, that impression that it is a conflict in which it had either to come to us or to go to India. That is not the part. That is not true because Kashmir had its own sovereignty. So that is the historical. I want to iron out
Excellent.
this
Excellent.
important
Hmm.
point. Next comes when these two dominions get established in 1947, 14th August and 15th August. So they start working for their own, whatever they had to do, make constitution, make administration, expand their army, secure their territories, which they had now, new formed territories. Fine. What came into it is because Pakistan was based on two nation theory, that the South Asia has two nations basically. One is Muslims and other is Hindus, which did not exist because Muslims ruled India for 870 years. There was no two nations there. For 870 years, the Muslims ruled India, what we call India. It was
Mhm.
the northern part of the India, not the southern. But there was, you don't find in the history that there was a conflict between two religions, Muslims and Hindus.
Hmm. They
The
were living
Hindu
side by side. Yeah.
for 800 years,
Hmm.
900. But unfortunately, the Britishers inculcated into the leadership of Indians and Pakistanis, one led by Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, other led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So they inculcated into them that no, you are two nations. Though Muslims were the minority but ruling whole of India. Muslims had the highest uh, elite class in throughout India. It had more reserves, monetary reserves, than the United States of India, United States of America.
Today.
Exactly. At that time, the Muslims of India, all those states, which was Deccan, Hyderabad,
Hmm.
Kashmir, Maharaja, and many other states in which Muslims rulers were there, they had the money and reserves to the extent that United States of America did not compete with them, could not compete them.
Hmm.
For the sake of my argument, in support of rather my argument, I will say that even today's Saudi Arabia owes money for establishment of Saud dynasty in Saudi Arabia to the Maharaja of Nawab of Deccan.
Interesting.
You can Google any picture
Mm. Yep.
in which King Saud of
Mm.
Saudi Arabia.
So there are, I can see there were two points that you have made, and they are very actually they're new to me in a sense because I'm not a good student of history. Number one, this is a very different perspective that we have never heard about, that Kashmir was protected by the crown of British India at that time. It was, so you're telling me that Kashmir was an independent state then, was having its own legislation run by its own people, but it was not ruled by any foreign entity at that point in time, and everything was done and managed by Kashmiris on their own. And then India, that was being run, was a minority community, in that case Muslims, richest Muslim on the face of earth at that time, who were running a country that was, they were not in majority, but they were living at peace. There was, the religion was not an issue. So those are the 2 points that I can get out of your conversation. All
That
right.
is why I would like your audience to know that when Britishers started colonizing India, it were the Muslims who fought against them because they were in control. Tipu Sultan, Hyder Ali, 1857 gather of when Aurangzeb, Bahadur Shah Zafar in Delhi, and in the similar way in Bengal, Sher Afghan and all those people, whosoever were those, they were the people who fought Britishers because they were ruling.
Correct. So I want you to please move swiftly to the 2019 and onwards, so because we are running out of time. We are only 12 minutes left.
Okay.
Ji.
Now, in 2019, sorry, 2019, I earlier said 2018. In 2019,
Ji.
uh, there was, after 1947 on 22nd, let us forget about, there was an invasion.
Okay.
There was an invasion of tribesmen from Azad Kashmir, what is called today's Azad Kashmir, which
Okay.
was supported by Pakistani army then. They invaded Kashmir, saying that, okay, now our country has become a Muslim country, so we should grab all the Muslim areas which are left in India. So, most important of them was Kashmir. So they, without any probably preparation, they just ventured in, and without thinking what could be the repercussions of this invasion. When Kashmir was an independent country, you don't invade it
Hmm.
by just presuming that Maharaja would go into with India.
Hmm.
It was a presumption on his behalf that Maharaja wanted to stay independent. But at the same time, I just wanted to correct that Kashmiris had an internal conflict, internal resistance against Maharaja. It was not that they should, they were, it was not a resistance movement that they will go and merge with India or merge with Pakistan. It was change of the draconian laws, that discriminatory laws that Maharaja had put in place. So there was an internal resistance to that by Sheikh Mahmud Abdullah, which had nothing to do with creation of Pakistan or creation of India. It was completely separate from that issue. So that is very important that I should mention it, that Sheikh Abdullah was not, had no idea about this India and Pakistan. So he was basically trying to get the discriminatory policies and discriminatory laws of in Kashmir eradicated. So in 1947, when this invasion came, and what happened in Gilgit, also there was some Dogra army there, and their families and all that stuff. So there was conflict there also, and they ran away. So they came, when they came to Jammu in Poonch area, and they described the horrific stories that had taken place in Hunza, in Gilgit. So it aggravated the whole Hindu-Muslim, and you saw what happened in Poonch. And even if you go to Kotali today in Azad Kashmir, you will find the stories of how many of the Dogra were massacred there also. So forget about that one. Now I come to 1947. The Maharaja is in standstill agreement with both India as well as Pakistan, telling them, hey, hold on. I just want to have a look at it, what the possibilities could be there between us and you. Basically, he wanted to stay as Maharaja, as an independent country. But when the invasion took place, he was forced to call India for help. And within 2 weeks, 22nd October 1947 and 27 October 1947, these two countries came and occupied land of Kashmir in two parts.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Now it's an occupation on the basis of the military might, and hurriedly they said that India asked Maharaja that, hey, there is a legal document that needs to be signed before we can send you the help with the troops. So he said, okay, what is the legal argument? And for your sake, if you can put the slide 1 or slide 2 of instrument of accession, and this is the legal document that India wanted Maharaja to sign. Very good. Now, okay, this legal document, if you go to clause 7 or 8 of this, you will, or if you go through, nothing in this, let me read clause 7, nothing in this instrument shall be deemed to be commitment in any way as the acceptance of any future constitution of India, or to fetter my discretion to enter into arrangements with government of India under any such future constitution. It's very important. When this instrument was signed by Maharaja, the Constitution of India did not exist. 370 did not exist, because Constitution of India was made in 1950. 3 years after this instrument was signed. And this clause 7 of instrument of accession is clearly saying that no future constitution which India is going to prepare will eradicate this instrument of accession or its conditions. Number 8 of this instrument of accession, nothing in this instrument of affects the continuance of my sovereignty. That goes to show that it was a sovereign country headed by a sovereign Maharaja. And the powers the state are as provided by under this instrument, the exercise of any powers, authority, rights now enjoyed by me as a ruler of the state, or the validity of any law at present in force in this state. So no laws will be implemented other than what are existing in the state. So that was the condition of instrument of accession, our bridge with India. Now this bridge was falsely broken on 5th August 2019. This was the only bridge between India and Pakistan, India and Kashmir, through which legally they would say that, hey, this is our part because we have this instrument of accession signed. So that's what India went to United Nations with this agreement in hand, saying that this is our part and Pakistan has invaded. Kindly see this instrument. And United Nations accepted it and said that, okay, we will have a debate on it, which is something that we should go for in a different scenario, different show to explain that. But here I just wanted to emphasize that this clause was basically thrown to dustbin by India on 5th August 2019.
Okay.
It had no authority to change, though through their proxies, through their own people like Farooq Abdullah, Ghulam Ahmad Sadiq, Bakshis, who were all their own stooges. They, Mahbubah Mufti and all these, all these people slowly eradicated one thing or the other thing and the other thing. So what was left was a skeleton of 370. Now, in order, when in 1950, India made this constitution, they said that, hey, we have this Kashmir in which the instrument of accession is there. We are certain conditions there. We can't just blanket our constitution all over, including Kashmir, because we are bound by agreement between Kashmir and India. So somebody, probably the makers of the constitution of India, they said, hey, let's put Article 370 in it, similar to the other states wherever we require it. So they put a 370 article in their constitution, safeguarding the instrument of accession. Right?
So I can understand your historical background and the way that it has been played out over the years, especially after 1947, and then this gimmick of, I would say, I would call it a gimmick of Article 370, and some value to the Article 35A, and then creating an excuse to bringing in more troops on the ground, making the life miserable, costing people of Kashmir, in very first year, loss of over $5 billion, local economy, joblessness, and obviously, if you remember, in 2019 and 20, the Genocide Watch declared that India was committing a genocide. All of those things do happen, but it was all under the pretext of this false notion that the Kashmir was part of India, and now they have taken it back. And then the statements coming from Pakistani side, as Hamid Mir once noted, that the Bajwa, then army chief, sold Kashmir, which he has no power to sell it. So all those things are. What do you make out of all those things, Siddiqui Saab, in last 3 minutes that we have?
I mean, that's what I am trying to say, is that it is irrelevant of what Kashmir, what Pakistan or India are doing in Kashmir. It is not going to get sustained over a long time. In the history, because Kashmir is itself a nation, it has its own history, and India as a democracy or Pakistan as a democracy, states cannot continue to occupy Kashmir on the basis of the military might. It has never happened in any part of the world. Even United States could not do in Vietcong. Britishers could not do in so many places. So it will not work, because you cannot subdue a nation which has its own heritage, culture, language, and a history to be proud of, irrespective of whether they were Muslims, they were Hindus, they were Sikhs, they were of Buddhist, but the land has its own historical heritage, which every Kashmiri loves, irrespective of their religion. They love it, and it's an extension of their national or subnational psyche that they want to maintain. So let me challenge both India and Pakistan: remove the army of 800 million uh, from Indian occupied Kashmir, and another 100 200 million from
100, 200,000.
200,000 from Azad Kashmir, and then let us say that these are our parts. By coercion, your atrocities happening there in Kashmir, killing hundreds of thousands have been killed so far by India. It's a shame for democracy like India to do it, or for that people, those Modis or Rahuls, they can't talk about it. That this is the truth is that we are occupying Kashmir. Unless the similar way in Pakistan, if they don't do it, they will never rise to the level where world can see them as nation's true sense. If India wants to have its place in the world, it has to have the responsibility to resolve Kashmir with Kashmiris.
Farooq
Similarly,
Saab, thank you. Thank you very much. We will have to end it there. So, in a nutshell, that Pakistan and India both have to realize and understand what the truth is and reconcile with the people that they have done injustice to, whether it's their own people or Kashmir or other minorities that they are forcefully trying to win over their hearts and mind, which they, as you have eloquently stated, that they will never be able to win it by force. They
there's
will
no way.
all,
There's no way.
yep, and history has taught that lesson to us.
I,
And
I just wanted to add to that.
yes,
To this, we are say, as you can see in your background, there are these nuclear powers. China, even it takes its own pie out of it, which
yeah,
is not a responsible thing to do.
absolutely.
I don't think that China can be such responsible. I mean, great power with responsibility of occupying parts of other nation. That is not how your liberty works. So world needs to know these are the areas of the conflict, and these conflicts can get into nasty uh, results in that region, far more than what you find in Israel and Gaza, and far more repercussions if it starts boiling there with all these three nuclear powers with arsenal at the point.
Correct. And I'm just looking at that screen, and then there are like 10 countries that surrounds the this flashpoint. That includes the North Korea, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, Iran, Russia, UK, France, and
Yeah.
of course the US. So if this conflict is not resolved, then just imagine the magnitude of flashpoint and the disaster that is sitting and watching around the corner to happen. So at this time, I think people of the world and the people who have the power should realize the sanity must take place and it should prevail. Siddiqui Saab, thank you very much. I do need to have another session with you in Urdu for our
Okay.
India Pakistani audience. And if you bear with me, I'll be right back with you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have at this time and point. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.